Hey, howdy. Checking the mics, making sure we're good. Just checking everything out. I'm going to check out the YouTubes and make sure that we've got audio over there. And we do. We do. That's fantastic. All right, so we're going to leave YouTube right there in the dust. We don't need to do anything more with that. How are you doing? You doing all right? I'm doing great. But it's really about you. I'll take these headphones off. I don't need them. And we're gonna let CouchBot get us out of the gate over here in Discord. Hope things are going really well where you are. It's we're in like just day 3 of the election. Man, I can't keep up with it. For my viewers, many of you tuning in from India or Indonesia. America elections. Hell, you've all read about it. You know what's going on. Long story short, CouchBot's fired. We have solid audio, and we've got work to review. So let's go ahead and get this underway. Greetings, one and all. Chris Courtney here, new Pragmatic. It's time for the feedback loop, where I take student work that's been submitted and give it some feedback, give it some love. We've got Ricardo's in here today, which is always good to see Ricardo. Eddie's back, and I'm blown away by what Eddie submitted. And then Abby is also here. So we've got 3 different, and everybody's in a slightly different spot. Ricardo's got some UI typography stuff. Eddie is digging into observational research. And then Abby is on the other side of UX, prepping her presentation. So I'm super excited. Just take a look and see how everybody's progressing. I've also given some offline feedback. Jane, Eve, Rebecca. So there's some other conversations that are going on. So we're just going to be talking about the ones that are getting feedback today in the feedback loop. But just know that there's other students, and if you are interested in mentorship, newpragmatic.com/mentorship. You can get signed up, get yourself in the program. Also, if you like these videos, hit that subscribe button below. And I'm going to share my screen. Let's get this underway. All right, right out of the gate, we're going to take a look at Eddie. And Eddie has the observational research spreadsheet for observational research spreadsheets. Eddie is out in California, and he went to, I think the first place he went to here was a skate park. And the idea here is that to really understand how people are handling the pandemic, you need to go out and witness how people are acting when they're in public spaces. So in this particular case, this is an outdoor public space, and this, as you can see, he was observing 57 people. All right, and of those 57 people, it looks like there were a total of five that were wearing a mask. So that in and of itself is very interesting to me. The ages, and it looks like there's a varied ethnicity here. The ages are 20s to 40s. Most of these people were walking. You can kind of see that, based on this, the breakdown, everybody else here is much younger, and skating, playing catch, whatever, no masks, all the way down, no masks. But you get down here to this one little batch who were clearly not skating, masked. They were masked up. I'm also interested in the social distancing. So it's interesting, playing catch in an open field. They were socially distanced. I'm guessing they had to play catch with somebody. But I did notice that there was a There was a couple of people up here, but it seems like overall these people are not taking the pandemic seriously at all based on your initial research. Everybody's just like doing their thing. Um, I would point out though that this is a heavily male population, and guys are more reckless, just in general. So that's something to take into account when you've got like male. Um, but it's when we talk about some of the activities that we're going to be trying to monitor. This fits in. A lot more guys tend to play group sports, for instance, but there are more group sports for guys, so that lines up. Um, but what I do like about this is I do like the fact that you've gender, race, age, activity, mask, sunglasses, helmet, talking, alone or in a group, social distancing, other notes. Um, I do like the detail here. The detail here is very good. You're going to be going back to this again in the future. So having this, the fact of the matter is you're not really completely sure what level of detail you're going to need. Just always know that more detail is better than less detail, and that gives you options as you move forward. Because once you get away from doing your observational research, it's not like when you circle back, that's a whole new batch of observational research. You're never going to go back to this moment at this park on that day. Like once it's done, it's done. So you gather as much as you can. All right, activity number 2. Now see, we go from an outside activity to an inside activity. This is Eddie went and basically watched activity at a post office, USPS on Sunflower Avenue. Much more diversity regarding gender, ages is very broad, masks all the way down, except for that one. Let's see, what do we have anybody else? Okay, we've got a 60-year-old white male and a 50-year-old African American male. So only the dudes. I told you, dudes are more reckless. But overall, everybody's masked up, taking it seriously. If I had to guess, there's probably a mask rule at that post office. There might be a mask rule for indoor spaces, but you can see, like, when there's a rule, people mask up. The key here is indoor, okay? And that comes into play when we begin talking about some of the things that you're going to be faced with in the UX projects, because some of them are hybrid, outdoor, indoor, and others are indoor. Social distancing, by and large, yes. It looks like daughter with father distracted by cell phone. They weren't distancing. If I had to guess, though, they were probably away from other people. Father, daughter, came in the same car together. So again, they're traveling in groups. Yeah, so this is really good. I also like the fact that what were they doing with their hands? Were they carrying something? Letters, box, nothing. That sometimes can be helpful. Sunglasses is that's kind of an interesting detail, and I can't tell, like, what do you mean don't know? Were they somehow hiding their face? It doesn't matter. It doesn't, like, I'm not judging, but it's kind of interesting. You put it like a shrug there. I want to see the next one. So this is this one has a lot of unable to tells and drove up in car, dropped off letter. So I'm guessing that these unable to tells, they were in and out so fast that you weren't able to fully make out what was going on. And there's so little detail in these that I would probably remove them. I mean, it's pretty much all the way across, unable to tell. I would just remove them because they're dirty. You can literally see, like, it becomes difficult to get a theme here. Um, but by and large, we have more no's here, but some of these are driving drive-through letter drop-off. So in the drive-through letter drop-off, like there's a lot of people who aren't taking that seriously. Um, there's more no's here than was at the other one. This may speak something to that community, but it also may say something because I've got a lot of literally like they drove up in a car and did something and went away. So maybe they thought, oh well, I'm not going to be here very long anyway. Um, but this is all very interesting, very detailed though, Eddie. This is great work, some of the best, and I want to encourage you to just continue. Like you're ready to move forward. You've got a lot of observational research. I would just push forward, but I would anytime you've got situations like this, I would just clean that up because you know I know this was a record of a person, but if you don't have any data to go with it, just cinch it up because it's just gonna make it harder to parse the rest of it. Okay. Um. So good job there, Eddie. Let's go ahead. Oh, Abby's here. Okay. And this is something that I worked with Abby yesterday on her presentation, and a lot of Abby's presentation when she was really first getting started was well designed, but Abby is a print designer by trade, and she was like basically cramming everything into the same slide, and that's problematic. She's using pitch here, and pitch is great. Pitch needs a couple of things. I'm excited to see like when some more bubbles. Maybe it's up here, maybe it's over here. I'm not really sure how the interface is going to morph, but got to have some slide transitions. Just have to. Anyway, looking over Abby's presentation, and I know Abby has recorded the presentation, so she's already moved ahead. I wanted to look at a few things here that were interesting to me from a consistency perspective. And one of the things that I noticed was like, she's developed a good consistency on the typography. Like we know what the label is, we know what the header is, like the headline, we know what the subhead style is. It's all very consistent. It's very interesting to me about alignment though, because I could see like this wants to be over here, or maybe it should grow. And I'm just making sure I can do this without totally destroying what Abby's got. It could grow, it could, you could make this larger if you want it to. But in its current form, it's like it just kind of like comes all the way over, and like there's like all this dead space in the page. I could also even see it going up to the point where, it just crops off. You just crop it off the bottom, and you're like, why this portal is important. You've got the search, whatever. Sometimes you just have to push this so that the other aspects allow you to find the balance. But there's other areas too, like here, just allowing yourself, and it's a little off because there's something. I want to go back here. Here's where we were. I want to check this out because there we go. So one thing I noticed about pitch is if you select the type itself, you get this like mini toolkit. But if you just select the shape, you get a larger one. And it seems like the line, it's almost like there's an extra space here. Is there an extra space? No. I can't tell for the life of me. Oh, is it because it's titled? Yeah, it's because it's titled. That's weird. Okay. So this was Chino 36, but because it had a title case on it, it was throwing it away. So if we, or it was like making it weird. So if we do this, and then we got to come back here and grab our spacing, and it's the same way all the way through. So apparently, like, there was some adjustment made. Oh, I remember, because this originally was a headline. Okay, that's why this extra space is here to the top. And then it goes 360. So if I select the shape and I say 36, okay, that fixes it. All right, that fixes it. That's good to know. So if we came back over here, we could actually just select the shape and make the shape the same size as the type, and that sorts out that issue. The reason why this is important, you may be wondering, Chris, why are you fussy, is when you go to center this on the page, the shape is no longer taking into account that extra space to the top. That's why. But you know, where we started at was like, it was right there, and then it's not centered. It's got the right starting or point of point of origination on the left, which we want, because we want the eye to start in the same basic spot. But where it struggles is you know, it's jumping. Like here it jumps up, there it jumps down. So either it's either centered on the page, or it needs a more consistent starting point. And it's difficult to nail down what should happen here. But I just want to point out, like, you know, these visuals, you can do a lot with them to help yourself out. And then you can, and again, this is where this needs to be 36. Also important, and I don't know if you folks realize this, this is acting a lot like Figma does with regard to auto layout, except it just does it. It just does it natively. Like, it's like, oh, you've got a collection of things here. I'm going to go ahead and move that for you. So I think that's very interesting. But again, you know, this is we made this image larger, and I just want to copy. Well, actually, we'll make that one. Well, this is where we started at. If we duplicate this, and I'm doing this for Abby, again, I just love that auto layout, like attribute aspect of pitch. But you know, this is going to work better as a slide, and you should compare the two. Like, we go from there to there. All right, soak up some of that space, let your illustration shine, and then center up the text vertically. And then when you go to the next one, you know, it's a little bit taller, but it's in the same general space. And again, this is where, you know, I still want to come through. I want to say 36 to fix that issue. It's not an issue that Abby had made. It's an issue that I had probably made yesterday. But then, you know, you come through and you make the teacher bigger, or whatever it is that you would like to do. And a shape like this gets a little weird. You know, you could come in and you could crop it, like so. I like having the books, but just know that you can crop these images. Also, that dreaded added text. But you get the idea. Like, now, as you go from one to the next, it's just a little more consistent. Okay? I'm going to undo that because, again, this was Abby's presentation, not mine. But you get a sense of the difference between these as you look at it. Same thing for parents. This goes back, you know, we talked about this a bit ago, you know, about coming through, and, you know, if you can't move the type, you can always go up larger with the image. You get the idea. It's just making use of the space. Here, like, the type shifts to the other side, and that's fine. typically you want something here though before like when this shift happens, when you shift over, there needs to be something here. Otherwise, it just feels very abrupt. So like, if you were like this, if you went here to here, that makes sense, and then you can have this one open if you need. But unless I wouldn't start it like just in an empty spot like that. Again, this is spacing. Also, like there's an extra space there. This isn't a true quote mark, or not a quote mark, apostrophe. It's a tick mark. So this is where you want to come in and say Shift Option closing bracket. And then I just like blew something up. What? Where about? Not that. Step 1. Again, sizing. Like being really delicate with the images. It's got to come up. Once it comes up, it commands a space. When it's down like this, it's like everything's just kind of floating around. And the fact of the matter is once you bring it closer, like this begins, the closer these are together, the more it acts like a unit. Okay. Same thing there. I'm not sure this, like it looks like he's looking right at the books. It kind of freaks me out. I could see like adding it to the top like an icon. But I don't know if I would like shove them in right there. This one works less good because you don't have any clearance to see what's going on. Like here, at least the subject matter is in the foreground. I would like it if we could crop this image and make it and like move him over a bit. Same thing with this. If this background allowed her to kind of be over here by themselves, I think that would be significantly stronger. Organization, and yeah, you've done some work here. I'm not sure what these slides are, so I'm looking forward to watching the video. But I just wanted to point out, like, there's some areas where this could be significantly stronger. Okay, and a lot of times it comes down to, can I just get in here and work with the space instead of saying, like here it's like I get this feeling it's like I want to keep the icon, I want to keep the images all the same size. And that's great. They're just all a little too dainty for the space that you have available. Okay, so I'm gonna kick that back over to you. You've got the video, but even though you've got the video, I still want to see this take a big step forward in terms of your presentation, because I want this to be something that you can share with people. Okay. Maddie is jumping in here. Let's see what Maddie has. Got it. Maddie's working really hard on a new project for work, and I'll tell you firsthand, like design is a fun and exciting profession to be in, but there's some times where it just like feels like it's pulling teeth to get out of it what you need when it comes to collaboration. There isn't a real solution to that. It's just actually the only solution I know of is patience. It's not just patience for the people you're collaborating with, but it's also patience. It's being patient with yourself. Okay, allowing yourself to go through the emotions that come along with doing this sort of work. So, Maddie, totally understand. Abby's dealing with it right now because I'm just like picking on her presentation, but patience. We will all get there. Speaking of patience, let's go over here and look at Ricardo's type specimen. So out of the gate, Ricardo, you're getting IBM Plex, and one of the things that's important to realize is like these lines move. Okay, the baseline and the cap height and all of that, they're all moving. So you've got Fira here, and Fira's line work. If we come in here and we say, okay, well, I've got this. I'm going to lock that. Oh, sorry. I'm going to lock that down so that I can come in here and I can move these lines around. You want to be able to see what this really is, and it's interesting. What happened to the lines? Oh, this is the italic. Okay. So that's the cap height. Or it's the cinder height. Cap height is really there. Baseline, or not baseline, X height is there. And this cinder is right there. So that gives you a better sense of what this alignment is. Again, the alignment that you're showing here is actually for IBM Plex. So you just come in and adjust the lines as needed, so that you get a proper sense of how this really works. And now you have something that's comparative. Like if you come over and compare these two together, sometimes I need to turn my. You can see that the X height on Fira is actually much taller than the X height on IBM Sans. It's just a taller typeface overall. Also, I really do like the. It's funny. There's a couple things that I like and a couple things I hate. I really have always hated the ribbon K that comes with a lot of italic fonts. It almost looks like a weird R. But I do like the fact, and do recognize the fact that it's very versatile. Lots of typefaces or lots of weights here to work with. And that's really what you're looking for. Only this crimson text down here that you have makes me wonder, like, is this really something that can be utilized? I would probably stay away from crimson text because it's just too limited. It doesn't allow us to do a lot. The other thing I want to look at is, like, I want to look at your actual, so yeah, I would like for you to go adjust the line work there on the typography. But the other thing I want to look at is, like, the versatility of the typefaces themselves. Fira Sans, really beautiful bold or semi-bold there. Is it bold or semi-bold? I can't. It says semi-bold, but I worry that it's actually just yeah, that's a bold. Okay, so this should be bold, not semi-bold. Extra light, as you can see here, is too light. This is regular, works pretty well by comparison. Here we're looking at spectral, and spectral is like an old school serif, but it's interesting because it doesn't have the rounded, like, it's very geometric, like that. There's no traditional rounding of the ink blot there. So this is a very while it definitely fits into the standard of the old school serifs. It has a neo grotesque feel to it because it's still clearly it's clearly engineered. Lots of weights, that's always good. Extra light, not going to work, but this regular works pretty well. Extra light's just, it's too hard for the eye to hold on to it. Nunito is always a popular one with students coming through. It's very modern, it's rounded. A lot of people like it. I don't hate it. if that I don't like the I don't like the shape of the A. The A always feels like it it's been underthought. I want that counter on the A to be larger, and it just kind of like flattens out on me. So that's, this counter right here. I think it's weird that it doesn't come up at least a little bit. I do like it overall. I mean, I like Nunito as a font. Um, you know, it works well in any of the large cases. It works better again in a regular. The extra light's too light. And then Crimson Text, it's it's okay. It's okay. It's just not versatile enough. And you can kind of see that, like, this is what I mean by the standard, like, curved, organic feel. It's still a little engineered. Here you got the sharp edge there that would normally be a bit rounded if this was like a true traditional serif. But when you compare that, compare the serif of the F here, which is really blocked off of spectral, to the serif of the F over here on Crimson Text. Like, it's curved. It's trying to. I mean, it's not pure. It's not purely organic, purely old school serif, but it is less engineered than spectral. So those are good. Again, I would stay away from Crimson Text just because it's too limited in the weights available. But I like it. Okay, let's go over here and look at part 2. So part 2, you're challenged to pull in. So you've got Nunito and spectral. Not a bad combination to work with. So here you've got a label, audio AI, what's a replica voice. You've got an intro, and the intro you've chosen to put in a light italic, which is fine. You've put it at 20. You've got the rest of it at regular. Be sure to clip out these bits that say intro and story and label. Those aren't necessary. So be sure to lose those bits as you're going through. I do wonder, when we're pairing typography, so much of it is about contrast, and I do wonder if this has enough contrast. You've got all these other weights available to you, but more importantly, I wonder, should we be bringing this letter spacing in? Because I just look at the W and the H here, and it's just so huge. And this is where I might even suggest going in and doing some individual kerning on that particular combination of the W and the H. So if we sit here and we pull all of that off, and I'm going to duplicate this so we can see it. So there's what's a replica voice. I'm going to say 0, right? When you look at that, I want it to feel I want you to be able to see it for what it's worth. It's just it needs so many typefaces that you work with will need additional work, whether it's line height, letter spacing, individual kerning between characters. It just know what you're up against. And here, even if we said, okay, well, everything's -4, and we don't go in and make this adjustment, I think we can look at this and go, okay, yeah, this holds together better, even though I don't like that WH. That holds together better than this does. And that's the thing that I need you to see. I need you to see and understand that typography isn't just accepting the weight and the size as is. It's also about kerning and leading and letter spacing. And a lot of times we do not get into specific kerning in web, we do get into letter spacing though. Okay, so just know that letter spacing and line height should always be in your bag as tools that you can use. Let's come over here. This very much is, I look at this, and I'm, this is again where the line height comes into play. So if we said 1.1, oh, sorry, I did that on the wrong thing. That was paragraph style enter. 1.1, way too light. If I said 90%, let's just say 90%. Okay, so 90% on headlines is pretty standard. You can get yourself into an issue if you get into like a queue. Obviously, that's running together. So that's where we might come in and say, hey, you know what? How about 95%? All right. Now you never would go 95% on smaller text. Okay. This is always where you tend to go the other direction. So what tends to be the case here is 140% of whatever the size of that is. So right now this is 17. But this is this is like a promo. This is like I want you to download this podcast. I do think that like there's some really interesting decisions being made here with regard to the spacing, and like, would we really invent this? Like it's not quite there. I do think that there is a question of, again, the contrast that's being shown, the alignment, like, and this, you've got download now. Would that be a button? Would that be something that we might, oh, and then there's this whole paragraph thing, paragraph label. I want us to look at this in terms of, if we were really designing it, what would we do? Leaving like label and paragraph on there, it's like it's not really being designed yet. Also, like, what's going to be packaged together? Because right now the paragraph and the download item seem to be working as a unit, where the headline, the label, headline, and paragraph are all kind of floating around. I would encourage you to look at this and say, okay, what would happen if we package these together? And does this need to be, if I took this down to 50, and if I took this down to 50 and took this up to 20, is that beginning to work better? What if does this need to come up to like, 14? And I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. What happens with this download? Does that come up? Does it stay down here? Do we put an underline under it? Do we put it in a box? Like, there's a lot that I think can be done to elevate this. But right now, if we go back and look at where it was, you get a sense of how much additional work it really needs. And so much of this is on the line height. It's just like we can't accept that line height as a headline. Just can't. Okay? Now let's go over here, take a look at this. All right, not an uncommon problem, but so it says here button pre-order. It literally says button. Okay? It says paragraph label. Like, we gotta clip these things off and begin looking at, like you didn't include, the restaurant name here. And I'm curious. Yeah, it says headline Taco John's. All right, so you still got this bit to do over here. The question is, if these are elements where we're designing, and this is one restaurant name. What happens if that restaurant name for the next one over is Sabor y Sazon? How do you design this one? Is it gonna stay the same size? Or is it going to, or are you going to like bring it down and say, okay, well, it's not 60, maybe it's 30. Well, what happens to Taco John? Does Taco John become 30? Do you allow this to be, gosh, I can't, Sabor y Sazon, traditional. Do you allow for this to be 2 lines? Like there's some consideration here that needs to happen where Taco John isn't the only option on the board. It could also be a longer name. How do you handle this? How do you handle this if it's multiple options? Okay? This is what we begin talking about as variable data. All right? For instance, right now, that works fine. Like, again, I'm coming through, I'm removing these tags telling you what it is. Geyer Springs Road 8108. That's pretty long. It could even probably get a little longer, and you're not going to run into problems. So you've put that at a good size. It's not bad. But this button here, like that should pretty clearly be, some sort of button. Like there's a button that's necessary here. It says button. Okay. So these are all considerations I want you to make. I'm going to kick this back. I do realize, this is your first time probably selecting your own typography and carrying things forward, considering more than one implementation at a time. So, it's not uncommon to have to go through this exercise a couple of times. But we will get you sorted out. But again, the typography needs more refinement beyond just saying this is a headline. Line height, letter spacing, arrangement, thinking about, and take cues. If this says button, make it a button. Okay? You know what a button is. This little square, put some text inside of it. And then, when we're looking at something like this, don't try to just fill the space. This is a print mentality. This is a print mistake that's happening here. I gotta fill the space. No, you don't. And what happens if next time through that's a longer phrase? Okay. All right. That's gonna do it. That's gonna do it for this edition of the Feedback Loop. I hope this has been beneficial for everybody. So, Abby, we're looking for, I'm going to be watching the video, but I'm looking for greater consistency between those slides, maximizing what you have available to you. You're close, but it needs a tweak forward. Eddie, just amazing work. Great, fantastic work. I think you've really got a sense of how people are operating differently depending on the space that they're in. And then Ricardo, great work on the type specimens. Like, I think you did really good there. On the actual implementation, I think you need to push it further, utilizing things like letter spacing and line height. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for the Feedback Loop. And I will chat with many of you later today, and all of you again tomorrow.